Because that happened. It's amazing.
Like, yeah, no longer is the same. They won't even in the historic. Yeah. Yeah.
I was very surprised when we were meeting.
Actually,
I've done it in the last year.
Okay. This is just, this is.
Grass.
Yeah, it's still there. I think. So that's.
I'm in a.
Oh,
yeah. Yes, I go down here. Yeah.
Yeah. I sounded good grass.
That's why.
That's really good.
No, and we're not wishing for it. I will.
I guess in bad like voice.
Right.
No, that's awesome. My, I'm good at him. Father. No, something else. Yeah. But that's our.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't put in
Told.
those like. I started off with burn. Oh, much. Right.
So far, standing.
That's.
I had to like stop it on my brain.
My others, my oldest one. It was easy. But he said, workman's comp. It's interesting.
Thank you for.
And so, but he ended up on the government.
Remember us. Oh.
But it's.
Well, here in this room.
Howdy. How are you? He's just recording.
Right, trying to sit down, hard land for a lift ticket.
Like my rates were heaven.
No, I'm referring to her.
Oh, see, you're the one who's thrilled.
Here comes the bandit. All right, we got the starting lineup here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are we good to go? Okay, I'd like to call the January 11, 2024. Still hard to say that with numbers. Development Commission meeting to order with our usual pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag Actually, looking at blue skies. Okay, case number one. Z22-042, 1826 East Livingston Avenue.
3.27 acre site consists of one parcel involved with a warehouse in the manufacturing district. Site is subject to ordinance 1734-2022 submitted for Ohio Housing Finance Agency funding, which allows a mixed-use development containing 5,500 square feet of commercial use and a maximum of 124 dwelling units. The applicant proposes the AR residential district to allow the multi-unit residential portion of this project as conditioned in ordinance 1734-2022. North of this site is a warehouse in the M manufacturing district. South of the site is parkland in the M manufacturing district. East of the site is railroad right-of-way and undeveloped land in the M manufacturing district. West of the site is an eating and drinking establishment in the C4 commercial district and residential development in the AR1 apartment residential district. Concurrent CD 23-070 has been filed to allow up to 5,500 square feet of commercial space for the proposed mixed-use development and includes a variance to building height, parking requirements, building setback, and perimeter yard. That request will be heard by City Council and will not be considered at this development commission meeting. The site is within the planning boundaries of the near south side plan, which recommends employment-centered land uses. That plan also includes early adoption of Columbus citywide planning policy design guidelines. The site is located within the boundaries of the Livingston Avenue Area Commission, whose recommendation is for approval. The proposed AR2 apartment residential district will allow multi-unit residential development at this location. A concurrent CV includes a site plan demonstrating a maximum of 118 units and 5,500 square feet of commercial space. Although the near south side plan recommends employment centered land uses at this location, staff are supportive of the proposal as the mix of commercial and residential uses is compatible with the mixed use nature of East Livingston corridor and the adjacent residential neighborhood to the west. And therefore, City Department's recommendation is for approval.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, traffic, Dan?
No traffic issues.
Okay, Chris?
No further comments.
Yeah.
No recreation parks comments.
Okay, the applicant is here. Is there anyone here to speak regarding case number one? No speakers. David, do you want to add anything to the steps?
Just Dave Perry here as consultant for the applicant, Woda Cooper.
Okay, I need someone to ask us to go to a vote. So move. John? So, slow. Okay, John. Okay. Please call the roll.
Janine Keith Schenker,
Yes.
Maria Conway,
Yes.
Amanda Golden,
Yes.
Don Anderson,
Yes.
Andrew Way,
Yes.
David Carey,
Yes.
Sheriff Patrick.
Yes, you are approved. Well, that's pretty close to a record there. Case number 2023-046, 666 East Fifth Avenue.
Just real quick before I begin, there's a typo in the City Department's recommendation. This is for a development of a car wash facility, not eating and drinking. I didn't think it required a whole new staff report, but I want to let you know. The site consists of two parcels developed with an eating and drinking establishment in the C4 commercial district. The site is subject to the Milo Grogan urban commercial overlay and the I-670 graphics control overlay. The requested CPD commercial plan development district will allow the site to be redeveloped with commercial uses, including a car wash facility. To the north of the site is an office use in the LM limited manufacturing district. To the south is a used car sales in the C4 commercial district. To the east is a restaurant and hardware store in the C4 commercial district. And to the west is undeveloped land in the CPD commercial plan development district and a storage unit in the LM limited manufacturing district. The site is within the planning boundaries of the Milo Grogan neighborhood plan, which recommends commercial land uses at this location. The site is within the boundaries of the Milo Grogan Area Commission, whose recommendation is for approval. The CPD text includes use restrictions and supplemental development standards that address setbacks, access, landscaping, building design, lighting, graphics, and signage. Additionally, the text includes code modifications to UCO development standards, including building and parking setbacks, building design requirements, minimum building width requirements, and parking and circulation location. The request includes a commitment to develop the site in accordance with the submitted site.
Okay, any questions or comments?
1 second. Almost done.
Oh,
The
sorry.
requested CPD Commercial Plan Development District will permit redevelopment of the site with an eating and drinking with a car wash facility. The CPD text establishes appropriate use restrictions and supplemental development standards and includes commitments to develop the site in accordance with the submitted site plan. The proposal is consistent with the Milo Grove neighborhood plan recommendation for commercial use at this location. While the auto-centric use comes into conflict with the plan's goal of contributing to a walkable and diverse neighborhood, the submitted site plan demonstrates additional landscaping and screening along East Fifth Avenue that contribute to a site design that is consistent with UCO standards, and therefore a city department's recommendation is for approval.
All right, now any questions? Okay, Dan, traffic,
No traffic issues.
Kathy,
Our comments have been included.
okay, great. Chris?
No further comments.
Okay, let me ask, is anyone here to speak regarding case number 2? David?
Thank you. I'm Dave Perry here as agent for Luma Express Car Wash. Answer any questions.
They're not selling hamburger.
They're not selling hamburgers now.
How about Chick-fil-A? Okay, we need a motion to vote.
Second.
Okay, now Janice is in. All those in favor of voting, say aye. Okay, please call roll.
Maria Conrad,
Yes.
Amanda Golden,
Yes.
John Worthing,
Yes.
Aaron Oakland,
Yes.
David Carey,
Yes.
Denise T. Shanklin,
Yes.
Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes. You are approved.
Very good. Thank you.
Did you handle my cases? Okay, case number 3, C19-043, 198 McNaughton Road, Columbus, Ohio.
Can you do your speaker spiels that they need to organize?
I spoke with the area commission leader, just for everybody else's information. Operational procedure, same as city council, so the area commission is gonna have to speak for 3 minutes. Then 3 speakers in opposition may speak, 3 minutes each. Try not to be redundant, most of you have been here at least once or twice, from my memory. So it's the same approach, and you'll see that at city council as well. So with that background, the applicant is here. Michael, do you have anything you want to add to the presentation?
I'll just identify myself for the record. Mike Shannon, attorney for the applicant, and Tim will do the presentation of staff. Thank you.
Before I begin, please review your supplemental packet to see the Far East Area Commission's recommendation, along with the revised limitation text and site plan, both dated January 10th, 2024. Additionally, I printed out for you over 75 emails in opposition that I've received up until today. Rezoning request Z19-043 at 198 Mountain Road was presented to the Development Commission on October 13th, 2022, and was given a recommendation of disapproval. The applicant has requested a reconsideration from both the Far East Area Commission and the Development Commission with a revised limitation text that commits to a minimum of 20% of the units being considered affordable, and an update to the overall site's acreage to reflect right-of-way dedication and additional commitments regarding Danner Road. All other commitments, including site plan, building elevations, and street concepts, remain the same. The site consists of 6 parcels developed with 3 single unit dwellings in the R Rural District. The applicant is requesting the LAR12 Limited Apartment Residential District to permit a multi-unit residential development containing a maximum of 296 dwelling units at 11.984 units per acre. North of the site is a multi-unit residential development in the LAR12 Limited Apartment Residential District. South of the site are single unit dwellings in the LR2F Limited Residential District. East of the site are single unit dwellings in the SR Suburban Residential District in the city of Reynoldsburg. West of the site is a fire station and religious facility, both in the R1 residential district. Concurrent CB 22-032 has been filed to reduce the building setback along the Mountain Road. That request will be heard by City Council and will not be considered at this Development Commission meeting. The site is located within the boundaries of the Far East Land Use Plan, which recommends low to medium density residential land use at this location. Additionally, the plan includes adoption of the Columbus Citywide Planning Policies Design Guidelines. C2P2 specifically states the following. Projects that are at a higher density than the recommended land use may be supported if they include a high level of site and architectural design. The site is located within the boundaries of the Far East Area Commission, whose recommendation is for disapproval. The limitation text includes a maximum dwelling unit count, a commitment for a minimum percentage of affordable units, and development standards addressing building and parking setbacks, building height, site access, traffic improvements, landscaping, open space, fencing, and building materials. Additionally, the text includes commitments to develop the site in accordance with the submitted site plan, building elevations, and streetscape concept, and includes commitments regarding Danner Road. The requested LAR 12 limited apartment residential district will allow multi-unit residential development with a maximum of 296 dwelling units, of which a minimum of 20% shall be designated affordable units and reserved for tenants who qualify based on the area median income. While the Far East Land Use Plan recommends low to medium density residential for the site, staff supports the proposal as the submitted site plan demonstrates sidewalk access along Mountain Road with pedestrian connection to the site, adequate landscaping, and building elevations that provide for high quality materials, all consistent with C2PG design guidelines, and City Department's recommendation remains approval.
Okay, let me ask one question. The previous site plan and text was dated December 18th. Are we still with that text?
No, so in your supplemental packet, the January 10th, 2024 site plan and limitation text,
Okay,
which Mr. Shannon can provide more information on how that came about this past Tuesday.
all right. Any questions or comments from the staff? Daniel?
A traffic access study has been approved for this application, and a street construction plan scope of work for the necessary right-of-way improvements has been issued. The developer will be responsible for widening of Mountain Road to provide a consistent 3-lane section with a 2-way left turn lane between the existing left turn lanes for Kenver Edge Way and Sister Nancy Gantz Lane, as well as construction of sidewalk along the Mountain Road site frontage. In addition, the City of Columbus has 2 infrastructure projects planned in the vicinity of this site. One project is planned to begin construction this year and aims to improve traffic congestion and safety at the intersection of Mountain Road and East Broad Street through roadway widening and construction of sidewalk and shade use path. The other project, for which professional services are planned to be advertised this year, would construct sidewalk and shade use path along the Mountain Road between East Main Street and Gaines Lane, tying into the facilities constructed with this proposed development and the project beginning construction this year. I'd be happy to answer questions.
Okay, well, I'm sure there'll be questions later, but Chris?
Planning has no further comments on this project.
Okay, Kathy?
Recreation and Parks has no additional comments. There's no additional comments, but we just wanted to reiterate that there has been extensive work to make sure that we're protecting some of that tree canopy on that property.
Okay.
And creating that open space so that the residents in the area have some green space and recreational opportunities so that they're not going to be out in the area.
Okay, very good. Okay, Michael, you're here to speak. I want to ask the question, how many speakers do we have that wish to speak tonight? 1, 2, 3 here, 3 back here. And of course, the Area Commission. Okay, Michael?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. When last this case was heard, there was not a full complement of members. I'm mindful of the fact that 2 of the members present here this evening have not seen this presentation before. So I would like to go over in detail the concessions that have been made to date and the more recent concessions reflected in your supplemental package. I would like to start off with the area plan, if you wouldn't mind pulling that up for this section of McNaughton Road, please. Thank you. This site is a little, about 3 parcels south of East Broad Street, directly across from the fire station, in close proximity to Mount Carmel East Hospital. It's important to note that we are on the east side of McNaughton Road, that at Broad and McNaughton, the property is zoned ARLD, which is 17 units to the acre. The property south of that is zoned AR12, which is 12 units to the acre. We are proposing directly south of that an apartment complex of just approximately 12 units to the acre. It's closer to about 11.8 units per the acre. So from a zoning standpoint, we feel that this is a reasonable land use based on the area plan. And more importantly, the C2, P2 guardian of the code vision of planning agrees. If we could now switch to the site plan, it would be helpful to, thank you very much, to go over the concessions that have been made. This initially was filed as an application for ARLD, 17.4 units to the acre. The neighbors will validate the fact that we had more than a dozen separate meetings of the commission as well as a negotiating team over more than a 2-year period. During that time, we reduced the density from 17.4 units to the acre to 12 units to the acre, rounding up. And that's a deletion of 132 units. Also, the previous application had 3-story buildings. We have modified it to have 2-story buildings as a direct consequence of those negotiations. As Parks and Recs indicated, the green space that you see on this site is a very substantial tree preservation area in the northeast corner. An additional, including the tree area, that's 6 acres of open space with walking paths that are amenities not only for our development, but accessible to the neighbors should they so desire. Number 4, unlike other applications that have come before you on McNaughton Road, we have done a traffic study. Unlike other applications that have come before you on McNaughton Road, we have agreed to make a substantial improvement to McNaughton Road, widening the road and installing, I believe it's 138-foot southbound left-hand turn lane with the appropriate tapering to try to mitigate any traffic concerns that would be caused by this proposed development. You'll also note in one of the renderings, and you don't have to pull it up, but the main access there on McNaughton Road, we actually agreed to a security gate, key card access only at the request of the neighbors. We also fortified the buffering on the northern perimeter and on the southern perimeter. There's the key card access that's proposed at the main entrance. The landscaping that you see in this is committed to. We are committing to this landscape plan. The additional commitments that we made were that we agreed to do all natural materials. In addition to dwarfing them from 3 stories to 2 stories, we've gone with brick, stone, stucco, masonry. There will be no vinyl siding. We have agreed at their request to do hardy plank. Furthermore, the initial proposal had a significant number of 3-bedroom units, and we have now made sure that they are all 1- and 2-bedroom units. I believe they're about 60% 2-bedroom units and 40% 1-bedroom units. The major amendment that brought me back to you is the fact that we are now committing to have 20% of these units, roughly 50 units, be affordable housing. I had actually pursued taking this to City Council, but in talking with leadership in the administration and leadership on City Council, including the president and the zoning chair, they felt that including the affordable housing component was such a significant change that it should go back through the approvals process with the area commission and this august body. We tried to have a meeting a couple of weeks ago. We had a failure to launch, but we were able to meet again on Tuesday. And those of you who were at the original meeting, that was a close vote. It was 2-2, and a tiebreaker made it 3-2. The neighbors at that time wanted single family on this site, and they didn't care if they were condominiums, but they wanted them to be owner occupied. They have a very sincere and honest belief that the apartments would lower the value of their property. And that has been a consistent hurdle that we have not been able to overcome. And the testimony back in October of 22 reflected that. However, when I met with them just Tuesday night of this week, some additional concessions were asked for. Number one, if we go back to the site plan, thank you, sir. You can see at the south, there's an access way on Dana Road. That was initially proposed to be emergency access only, but the Division of Traffic Engineering, as well as the fire department, said that that had to be an access that was not emergency access only. Tuesday night, the neighbors asked us to make that a gated, secure entrance that was available only to people who had key card entry, and we agreed. They also asked that all of our construction traffic come off of McNaughton Road and not utilize that road called Dana Road to our south, and we agreed to that. There was a concession, not by everybody in this room, but by the leader of the negotiating party that I've been working with for some time, that they would recognize the 10 units to the acre in the area plan and support apartments at 10 units to the acre for this project, which would require a reduction of 50 units. I explained to them at the time that if I reduced the density to 10 units to the acre, I would not be able to provide the affordable housing component, which is also 50 units. They took a positive approach this time. They tried to vote for conditional approval, made a condition on the security gate on Dana Road, no construction traffic. We had a couple gaps. I forgot to mention, there's also a board-on-board fence on the northern perimeter and the southern perimeter. There were a couple gaps that were actually just a mistake in the site plan, but we closed those gaps, and the only place that there is a gap is where there is a gas easement that you can see runs through the site. And they also conditioned their vote on reducing the density to 10 units to the acre. And I made it clear that in so doing, that would eliminate the affordable housing component. However, the vote was 3-3, and so that's a loss. So the recommendation was disapproval. I did go back and check with my client as well as representatives from council. The easy way out would be to reduce the density to 10 units to the acre, eliminate the affordable housing units, and call it a day. But that would be inconsistent with what this administration and the city council has determined to be a critical need for affordable housing. The market rate housing and the affordable housing that this project would provide are a very basic infrastructure need for this city. You as development professionals know better than most that we simply cannot provide market rate and, more importantly, affordable housing. The demand far exceeds our ability to crank out the units. And it's important to note that this application was actually filed pre-pandemic. Since that time, there has been a drastic change in the market. The cost of construction, the cost of materials, the cost of labor, the increased deficiency in our housing stock have all presented themselves in such a way that it's a perfect storm that is denying people that make an earnest living, that make a decent wage, a place to live. So I cannot, in good conscience, reduce my density to 10 units to the acre because the 2 units per acre that I would be eliminating are affordable housing units. That's contrary to council's direction. I'm sure you know, I believe it was December 19th, they extended tax abatements citywide based on a lot of criteria. I want you to know that my client made a commitment to do this affordable housing without a tax abatement in December of last year. To the extent council asked me to come back through the process, we will check on the availability of tax abatements this time. But my client wanted to be a good neighbor, and he also wanted to be somebody who was addressing the needs as perceived by city council and Mayor Ginther. And I do want to thank the area commission, their leadership, and the neighbors that negotiated with me. I do not doubt the sincerity of their concerns. But quite frankly, this is close to a $70 million project. This is not going to cause a diminution in value of their properties. And I would respectfully request your approval based on these concessions we have made. I'd be happy to address questions now, or I can wait till further testimony and do so. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Michael. Let's hear the speakers first, then we'll call you back for some
Thank you.
questions.
Thank you.
Area Commission.
Good evening, Jennifer Chamberlain, Chair of the Far East Area Commission. I'd like to thank the Development Commission for allowing me to speak again tonight for the Far East Area Commission. Wanted to provide a little bit more information about the unique conditions on McNaughton Road, and which is why we've held so steadfast. So MORPC has McNaughton called out as a high injury corridor based on streets that have historically experienced a high number of crashes, resulting in fatal and serious injuries. According to a statewide study, both Broad and McNaughton and Main and McNaughton were both in the top 25 most dangerous intersections in Columbus, with 113 crashes in a 5-year span. In addition, McNaughton Road is now sandwiched between one Linkus corridor, which is East Main Street, which will be restricting traffic down to one lane in each direction when it's completed, and Broad Street, which will be another Linkus corridor. Not to mention the Fire Station 5 directly across the street and Mount Carmel Hospital entrance at the corner. Also would like to add, and I think it was mentioned, that East Broad Street will be widened beginning this year from 270 to Reynoldsburg, New Albany Road, increasing traffic to the most heavily traveled street in the city between 270 and Wagner Road. In 1998, the city of Columbus paid for an engineering study for McNaughton corridor stretching between East Broad and Livingston. The results of the study cited that increasing traffic volumes and safety are major problems. Solutions included widening to 5 lanes, additional turn lanes, sidewalks on both sides, and right-of-way improvements. The city of Columbus implemented none of these. And in 2019, an 11-year-old girl was struck by not just one, but multiple vehicles while walking to her bus stop. It is the responsibility of this city to ensure the safety of its streets and residents, and in this case, it failed to do so. Commission has grave concerns about loading the corridor, considering the previous engineering reports and pedestrian fatality. In addition, what would be a 16th community along this small stretch of road between Broad and Main would make 14 out of 16 communities, which would only have one means of egress out of each of those communities and only onto McNaughton Road. That is the only means of egress for 14 out of 16 of those communities in that small stretch of a road. Columbus is currently redesigning the zoning code due to the unplanned growth that is expected to occur in Central Ohio. Unplanned growth has unexpected consequences, so we understand the need for planned growth. This corridor demands the same consideration. The unexpected consequences of another death or serious injury of both vehicular or pedestrian needs to be paramount to this development commission. until safety begins to be addressed in 2028 with at minimum sidewalks the length of the corridor. Until then, our commission will not approve any increased density along McNaughton Road so that we are not complicit in another serious or fatal accident. I would like to also add that when we voted on Tuesday night as a commission, we did vote 3 yeses and 3 nos. And when speaking of that decision, the 3 yeses made the decision only to change their vote from a no to a yes because the reduced dwelling units per acre going down to what would fit into our C2P2 plan, we felt would outweigh the potential that if this development does not go through both Development Commission and City Council, and the developer sold the land and it went to another developer, the chances are that by that time the zoning code would change, density would increase, and we would see something 2 to 3 times more the size of what's going in there right now. The other 3 commissioners who voted no still voted no despite that because of safety and traffic concerns were just so high in their mind's eyes. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Very clear. Any questions or comments? Okay, who would like to be our first speaker? Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm William Nyrote. My wife and I live at 6300 Inver Edge Way, part of the reserve at McNaughton. The rear of our property butts up to the proposed development. I'm speaking out against the proposed development primarily for several important reasons. First, the proposed development exceeds the current C2P2 zoning for the proposed parcels of land. My desire is for the current zoning to remain in place and future development to be low-density housing such as single-family dwellings or 2 or 4 unit condominiums. The predatory developer refuses to modify to this possibility. Second, the Far East Side land use plan threshold calls for 6 to 10 units per acre. This predatory developer has repeatedly not reduced the plan to meet the 6 to 12 units per acre, even with the proposed tax abatement offered by the city. An exception here would make the plan irrelevant to the citizens of the Far East Side. Third, the current traffic flow on McNaughton Road, Main Street, and Broad Street must be at, near, or exceeding capacity during certain times of the day. Any addition to the current traffic volume will cause increased traffic congestion and threaten the safety of all. Fourth, I'm somewhere in there. Third, I'm keenly aware that the Columbus Fire Station number 5 on McNaughton Road is directly across from the proposed development. As a son and grandson of Columbus City Fire Department, firefighter and captain, I would encourage you to see what I see. Currently, the firehouse is subject to local heavy traffic on a 2-lane McNaughton Road with its engine truck, ladder truck, medic, EMS, and battalion chief vehicles. Increasing the traffic anymore would compromise the response time and the safety of those firefighters who risk their lives for us and any other citizen on McNaughton Road. Next, an increased volume of traffic will cause disruption of regular emergency squads coming from other Columbus fire stations, 21, 23, and 35. And those emergency squads regularly come from other communities in Fairfield and Licking counties attempting to go to the emergency squad entrance and trauma unit at Mount Carmel East Hospital through the McNaughton Road access. Don't be fooled by the predatory developers' modifications used as a smokescreen. This change does not modify any of the reasons I have given. Furthermore, the proposed claims that there has been a traffic study. The only comprehensive traffic study was in 1998. The proposal also claims that it meets the Far East Side land use plan, which of course it doesn't. Approval of this proposed development would be an insult to the Far East Side community in its planning and bring unreasonable risk to citizens who live near McNaughton Road. Therefore, I ask you to vote no on this proposed development. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Ali Cole. I live on 6088 Whitman Road in Laurel. Oh, I'm sorry. Hello, my name is Lee Cole. I live at 6088 Whitman Road in Laurel Canyon. And if it's possible, can we go to the previous slide that shows the overview between McNaughton and all the way down to Maine? Yes. Good evening. Again, my name is Lee Cole, and I'm asking you to vote no on the development for 198 McNaughton Road. We can't deny that Columbus is growing, and we are tasked as a community to create a welcoming city for all. It is a fact that we need housing, and that means serving the entire housing cycle. That means apartments, multifamily homes, and single-family homes. We are pleading with you to vote no on this development. There have been myths that said that people aren't buying houses anymore. But on November 9th, 2023, Fortune magazine published that millennials and Gen Z is saying it's harder to buy a house and get promoted than it was for their parents. ABC News reported that millennials are being priced out of home ownership because they're feeling the pressure. And CNN reported that millennials feel that they have no chance whatsoever at being able to afford a house. But we believe that something can be done, and that is demanding that predatory developers and their attorneys make single-family, multifamily, and apartments that serve the entire life cycle for the city of Columbus. The fast food solution of popping apartments in any and every domicile that is located within the city is a temporary solution to a long-term problem. We need the entire housing life cycle served within the city of Columbus. Make no mistake, McNaughton is a very unusual street and site. If you look at the map, everything east of McNaughton Road between Broad and Main is a cul-de-sac. That means, as our wonderful area commission president stated, we have no other way in or out of the entire community other than McNaughton Road. It's the elephant in the room that makes this site unique. We should ask ourselves, just because we can, does that mean that we should? Every time that a house is sold on one of the remaining sites that's over 3 acres, our predatory developers and their attorneys are pouncing. They're looking to extract the equity that the people in this room, the people in his city who live, work, and play within the city limits and add to the property taxes that keep our communities and our schools going. We are the ones that are invested in the community, not necessarily the $70 million one-time shot in the arm by predatory developers and their attorneys who traditionally abandon their properties after 10 years. Another myth that is often said about our communities is that we have a fear of apartments. Most of the people here have never said that we have a fear of apartments. What we have a fear of is predatory developers and their attorneys abandoning the properties after 10 years, which we've seen in various sites throughout the city of Columbus. That is the historical life cycle of when apartments and apartment complexes are sold and then resold and then resold. We've seen these areas along James. We've seen this happen at Colonial Village, and it's primarily in areas that have been redlined. What we're asking you to do is to vote no on this property, to look at the entire life cycle of apartments, housing, and the other needs that have to be addressed within the city of Columbus. Apartments are a temporary solution. What we are creating is a direct pipeline to our suburban neighbors who are building houses. We applaud what the developer has done and the concessions that have been made, but it is not enough. And the reason it is not enough is because of the unique situation along McNaughton. It's unlike anything else primarily in the city. You would not allow this development to occur if it only had one access in or out. However, you've allowed this to occur for every community east of McNaughton Road. So once again, we're asking you to vote no on this development. Look at the community as a whole, the potential impact to this site, and then look at the other developments that are coming before you. Are you solving the long-term solution? Are we giving residents the opportunity to build generational wealth as our predatory developers and their attorneys are doing for their families? Give us the opportunity to live, work, play, retire in the city of Columbus. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker.
I am utilizing the strong arms of my neighbor that lives on Kimber Edge Way with me. He's going to be my human easel that I'll refer to. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I think I have a loud voice. I am here in attendance this evening as a resident of the McNaughton corridor who is opposed to the 198 McNaughton Road development. We have
your name for the record, just.
My name is Dietrich Evage, no relation to Tim Dietrich. We have neighbors here this evening that are also in attendance and oppose the development. If you are here tonight in opposition to the proposed development, I would like you to stand in opposition and to show our presence in the meeting this evening. This is a representation of the over 1,900 residents who live and rely on the McNaughton Road corridor. Please be seated. I am a resident of the Reserve at McNaughton. This is south of the proposed development, and I'm going to use this display to give you a better understanding of our community. Can you step back just for a second? Sure. So the audience can kind of see too?
Feel like we're failing?
So both Bill and I live right here, which is south of this development. This is the area that the development will go into. This is the hospital that has been referred to, and the hospital has this as the ER entrance for their trauma center. So all of the traffic that comes off of 271 that you see depicted here comes down, and it has to go through the corridor to get to ER. The fire station. This fire station is right across the street from where this 296 apartment community would go into. So as you see, we already have constraints for the fire department to actually leave to respond to any emergency. And those are emergencies on 271 or any other area. I'm sorry, 270. I'm from Cleveland. All right. So as we talked about, in terms of expansion of this road, it's limited. This is I-270. We're not moving I-270, to my understanding, at any point in time down the future. So this is a barrier that will eliminate and limit the egress opportunities for all of these communities that live off of here. We're landlocked. All of these residents come to the McNaughton corridor to exit to go to anything that's on Main or Broad. There's also developments that are on this side that also only have one egress in. Again, this section, it is not viable to introduce another large density community because you are going to be impacting everyone that lives here. This is close to 2,000 residents here. Also that's going on in this area is AEP is actually installing new utility poles. So as you see here, these new utility poles will go all the way down McNaughton corridor, and this is a new substation. So there's a lot of traffic that is already being planned. And until this infrastructure is addressed, you really should not consider any further development to increase the density within this corridor, as Jennifer has already stated. So hopefully that gives you a better depiction of what we are looking at. And yes, we did share on Tuesday on Kimber Edge Way a request to limit the construction traffic. And for this entrance that initially is unsecure, has no gate, the only secure access is here. And so all of that traffic that wants to go in will be able to go in without a key card at all. But I understand that that concession is being made and the proposal will be revisited. So are there any questions there?
Do you want to see this closer?
Okay, it's very clear.
It's not fancy like the others. This is our grassroots effort to put this together. But I thought it was very important for you to understand the nature of our community and how we access our homes. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
The other mention of the traffic study that was made, we have requested on multiple times to actually see a copy of the traffic study. We have not seen to date a copy of this traffic study. And it's my understanding that what has been referenced, that traffic study was done at 3 a.m. in the morning. Yes. So that traffic study did not look at the capacity of McNaughton Road. It did not look at the impacts to the ER entrance to Mount Carmel or the impact to the fire station. So I think that's significant enough for us to consider making sure that we have a comprehensive traffic study. The one that was done was comprehensive, was 1998. That is 25 years ago. There has been significant increase of additional communities that have been constructed in this same stretch, which has already increased the traffic on a 2-lane rural highway with no sidewalks and significant ditches on each side where you cannot even move over if a fire truck or an ambulance comes at the same time that you are on the road. So my namesake has said that I need to wrap up. And so I think I've addressed everything that I wanted to say. I am asking that the commission table their vote until we see a copy of this traffic study, because the infrastructure right now, the way that it is designed between this corridor, cannot accommodate this apartment community.
Okay, thank you very much. Very organized and eloquent. Okay. Any questions of any of this? Your speakers?
Oh, we have a question for staff. We'll do that.
Okay.
Whenever you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, obviously I appreciate the professionalism of the presenters. Several points to bring up. First of all, it's important to note that the Division of Fire is one of the regulatory agencies that's reviewed and approved this site plan. Secondly, it's also important to note that the MORPC plans that Jennifer mentioned were not to be set in motion at the time of my original application. I served on MORPC for 16 years representing the Central Ohio Mayors Association. It always I thought it was interesting that the Central Ohio Mayors Association, the acronym is COMA. That speaks volumes maybe for some mayors. But I knew this was in the planning stages when I left Morpsey back in 2016. But it's finally time for the pedal to hit the metal and for these improvements to be made. Also, with respect to the traffic, a copy of the traffic study was provided previously to the leadership group. That was acknowledged at the meeting on Tuesday. I believe Daniel could address it, and I'll leave it to staff to say about the validity of the traffic study. Similarly, the Division of Planning is the one who's the gatekeeper for C2, P2. And we can't lose sight that tragedy that occurred several hundred feet north of the Main and McNaughton intersection was exactly that, a tragedy. There are no sidewalks there. There's very, very poor lighting there, and it's an accident waiting to happen. You juxtapose that to this site where we will be constructing sidewalks along the entire frontage. We obviously will be providing the street lighting that is required, along with the other traffic improvements. When you look at the fact that we are widening McNaughton Road to provide for much needed traffic improvements. When you look at the fact that if you look at that area plan, and Tim, or Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but is the purple the employment center key?
Yes.
So if you see the purple in that map, those are designated as employment centers, both Mount Carmel Hospital and what I call what was the old Western Electric site. Those people make a good wage, and they deserve the ability to locate in close proximity to the center. The fact of the matter is that we have negotiated in good faith for almost 3 years on this project. The actual build out of this project will take at least 3 years. A lot of these improvements will be completed by then. Obviously, our improvements have to be completed prior to occupancy. And although their concerns are sincere, and I don't want to say they're not legitimate because they truly believe them, but the fact of the matter is you have traffic engineers that required us to submit a traffic study. This is multi-jurisdictional. This road goes in and out of the county and the city. The county engineer testified himself in one of my meetings and reminded the neighbors that back in the 80s, there was a capital improvement expenditure to widen McNaughton Road. The neighbors soundly shut it down. And I understand why. They wanted to keep the rural character of their neighborhood. 40 years later, 2020 hindsight, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. I can't undo what was done historically, but what I can do is say is that this development is different. It's paying its own way, and it's doing the traffic improvements that are required to meet the needs that our tenants will put onto the system. I think that's it. Just let me double check, please. Yeah, and finally, the notion that this could be single family or condominium and that the single family market is fine and doing well is erroneous. I don't like to. Forbes knows a lot more than me about the national economy, but I know a lot more than them about the Central Ohio economy. And the fact of the matter is people cannot afford to buy a house or buy a condominium in today's market. The interest rates are prohibitive. The cost of the new construction is such that these things have priced themselves out of the market. These people have no choice but to seek apartments to live in. And the people that need affordable housing, there's not one affordable housing application that's been heard by the Far East Area Commission in its history. That was part of the problems we had in the failure to launch 2 weeks ago, because they thought it would require a separate application because it's such a unique thing. The fact of the matter, it does not require a separate application. It requires a commitment by my client to build these units to the specifications of the city. So with that, I would defer to the Division of Traffic on the additional questions, with Division of Planning on as to whether this meets the C2, P2 guidelines. And I respectfully ask for your favorable consideration of this worthwhile market rate and affordable housing project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I do have a question about traffic. There was mentioned that at 3 o'clock in the morning, traffic study was put together in like 30 years ago, and that's all you have to go on is, what are the realities of your traffic study?
The traffic access study that was completed and approved for this development was completed within the last couple of years. There was a lot of intentionality that went into reviewing the volumes that were in that study. It is a public record. I have not received any requests for copies of that study. I have my business card here with my name and email address. If anybody wants to request that, I'd be happy to.
So it's recent and it's based on facts that we are living with since 2020.
Yes, we had an initial study for the initial proposal on this site. And when the proposal was expanded, we required that a new study be completed that would actually correspond to the current proposal. That's what's in the study that we have.
All right, John, you had a question?
Yeah, Chris, a couple just numbers. So this would be an AR-10 without, by right?
No, so planning, we don't deal with the actual zoning districts and it's more about like density
Do I
per
need
acre. Yeah, they can, BZS staff can respond to specifics on the districts, but they're proposing 12 units to the acre approximately. The plan recommends 6 to 10, but also C2P2 allows for additional density when considering site design and landscaping, et cetera. And so we were able to support it based on the design of buildings and the overall site design.
Okay. So
What was your?
10 units an acre is.
We don't have an AR-10.
Right.
AR-12
Is it, but the plan for it for 6 to 10.
We don't have an AR district that allows for 10, so they're asking for an LAR-12.
Okay.
And committing to a density.
And committing to a maximum number of units. It just so happens that they're pretty right on the 12.
Okay. But I also heard in earlier testimony that there was an agreement for 10 units an acre with the Far East Area Commission in the last meeting. Is that correct, Mr. Shannon?
It was suggested as a condition by the commission, but it did fail. It was a 3-3 vote. And at the time, the 3 people who voted in favor of it said they changed their mind because of the planned improvements by Morpsey, the pedestrian access, the sidewalks, and the like.
Okay. So at 10 units an acre, we would have 257 units.
Correct.
And we're looking at another 39 units to get up to the 296 of those 30. But you're already proposing that you're going to have 58 units, roughly 20% as affordable housing.
That's correct. I believe it's closer to 50. Would be 20% of 296, so it's about 48 units, not 58.
Okay. So really what we're arguing about here is that we've got 39 units more than 10 an acre. So we have 39 more dwellings in that space, and traffic would be okay with 10. Traffic would be okay with 10. I'm sorry. Traffic would be okay with the development of 257 units there. So really the increase of 39 units is roughly 15%. C2P2 allows that latitude. You're getting 50 plus units of affordable housing, I don't see how these 39 units break the camel's back.
I think the math is 46. Skip is correct, but just to clarify for the record.
Okay,
Thank
The
you.
20% of the 296? What is the
would
amount?
be affordable.
Would be affordable, what amount are you giving us?
Pardon me?
Like,
58.
'cause- Yeah, 'cause I'm thinking 58.
Yeah, we're talking about 2 units to the acre difference, and those 2 units per the acre would be affordable housing. The site is 25 acres.
Can I ask? Because I appreciate where you're
Yeah.
going. I have one question, and that is related to the development, and Tim, maybe you can help me. That's south, because it's a LA2F. What's the density on that southern one? Because that's where I'm wondering.
Yeah, so that's what I'm
is
gonna
the
have right
transition-
now.
17 and 12.
No,
No,
That's north.
17 is on Broad, 12 is right below it, then there's this, then there's the LA2F,
the site south of this site is,
not income,
it's not a density
right?
like district, it's
I get it.
minimum lot sizes, so I don't have that number with you, but it's,
Okay,
it would, the way the L is a limitation overlay, that probably committed to a certain size of a lot.
yes.
That would probably would add up to a certain density per acre. I just don't have that number in front of me. I can kind of,
I have the numbers here if you want to.
yeah,
That's-
but L2F is very low density.
Right. So that's more of my concern, to be fair, to be honest, is not so much its relationship north, which I understand, it's its relationship south, as a transition. If that is, and it's not, I mean, it's south is not really low density, at least from the image. So I that's where I want to understand more what it is. And if I can also understand more Chris.
The recommended density for that site to the south is the same as this, like 6 to 10.
6 to 10 is still good.
Thank you.
That's helpful.
What the existing density there was.
Okay, and the widening that's gonna go on Morse is gonna go McNaughton, sorry.
But
Is gonna-
let me get the big picture here. We've got an applicant that's coming forward and has meshed with the area commission, very active and very articulate area commission. And you're down to, as John pointed out, something like a 39 unit delta. Plan A is 1 count, Plan B is 39 more units. And in the process, you've got road widening and control traffic, left turns. You've got sidewalks, not everywhere, but for that piece of property. I would think the city has the power to force some way to get sidewalks to connect to something. Sidewalks to nowhere don't do anybody any good except for on that piece of property, but somebody's got to start the ball rolling. So you've got really good materials. Hardy plank is so much more durable than vinyl. You've solved a lot of issues. You're only 39 units away from ground zero, but you've asked for more so that you can get these affordable units in there and be more responsive and more responsible to the depressed incomes and the lower income makers who you need in a hospital. I mean, hospitals are cities within cities.
It's workforce housing.
The access of the fire departments, if I see a fire truck coming, I'll go up on somebody's lawn to get out of the way. Because I've seen it. I've been on McNaughton. All right, Michael, you had something to say?
No, I just wanted to acknowledge that Morpsey, that as Jennifer explained at the meeting Tuesday night, is extending a pedestrian pass and access pass concomitant to the sidewalks we're providing.
All right, well, I don't know that any one developer, and I really don't like the term predatory developer. There are some out there that are pretty predatory, but by and large, they aren't all predatory. I think there's enough energy in the city of Columbus to work to get things accomplished. I don't like how slow things go sometimes, but here's what I'm thinking. If this new code is coming, and it's coming soon, and you can just sit back and wait, and everybody wants more density in corridors, and they maybe would name this a corridor, then what happens?
Well, I think that's what Jennifer alluded to. One of the reasons that some people were motivated to vote yes is that it's only going to get more dense in the future.
And that future is only months away now.
That is correct.
All right, you have a question?
Yes, I wanted to make sure that I answered her question. I know she's talking to her colleagues, so I want to make sure that she hears. She
Okay.
was asking about what the density is of the southern part of that.
Maria, there's a density.
The density question, although it's zoned for 6 to 10, what is actually present there is 4.4 units per acre to the south of the development. That's where I live and where Bill lives. It's 4.4 units per acre, even though it's zoned for 6 to 10. I also want to make sure there has been a reference to a traffic impact and a traffic access, which are two different studies. The traffic access that was performed is only for the area right in front of where this development is going. It did not evaluate at all the entire corridor.
The choke points.
Correct. And so am I incorrect?
The traffic standards code as it existed at the time of this development did not require that this development study the intersection of Broad and McNaughton or Main and McNaughton. However, the city, as part of the East Broad widening project, did perform a study of the intersection of Broad and McNaughton. And the safety project that was completed a few years ago at Main and McNaughton also involved a traffic study. So studies have been, completed within, a certain time frame for both of those intersections. However, this particular developer was not required to also study those.
So the intersections were studied in the stretch in front of the development, but not the entire corridor.
The intersections are where the choke points are.
Thank you.
Okay. Possible.
And that excluded the fire station and the hospital, correct? Because it was it's just the intersections. It did not evaluate access to the hospital or access in and out of the fire station.
Are you saying this, like the specific driveway for the fire station?
What was covered in the studies that were performed were the intersections for Main and Broad and, McNaughton and Broad and McNaughton and Main. But it did not take a look at the entrances to the hospital off of McNaughton, which is the ER trauma entrance.
I don't know for certain, I'd have to check, because the entrance would be the intersection of Gantz and McNaughton. That may have been studied as part of the Broad Street project, but I would have to check on that.
Okay. And that is readily available if we email you, that you'll circulate all 3 of those studies?
Yeah, I should be able to provide a copy of the feasibility study for East Broad Street, the safety study for Main McNaughton, the traffic access study for this development.
Thank you.
Chris, I have a question for you. Tonight's session has as much to do with schedule of events as it does with traffic on the street and a lot of the other criteria. If this new code comes in and they raise the parameters and look for ways to jump ahead and look back, what are the consequences? Because development will continue and there is a transition period. What's it going to allow on a place like McDonald Road in terms of density and
This site is not located
in any?
on any of the corridors that are supposed to be updated as part of phase one.
All right, yes, sir.
I'd like to answer a couple of your questions about density.
Okay.
In the entire McNaughton Road corridor from Main Street to Broad Street, there are 1,646 residential units. That is an average development density of 2.7 units per acre. This 296 units adds 18% additional units to the McNaughton corridor between Main Street and Broad Street. And the issue that we are trying to get people to understand is that there has not been a comprehensive look at the traffic problems of McNaughton Road. And if you increase development density, you've got to, from a safety standpoint, provide adequate transportation infrastructure to support that development. And at this time, McNaughton Road cannot support that development. That concluded and supported by the 1998 study that said that this should be a 5-lane road. Now, the residents of the area don't want a 5-lane road. It would be enormously expensive for the city to produce a 5-lane road. So the only way to solve the issue is to reduce the development density. And if you make a decision on this project tonight, you are you're suggesting a development that is going to substantially impact the safety of the traffic on McNaughton Road, which can't handle the existing traffic. Thank you.
Just in conclusion, number one, I specifically talked to the Division of Fire on several occasions about the traffic access study and the approval of this site plan as it's currently constituted, and they signed off on it. So if there was concern in the Division of Fire, we would have known it. Similarly, we did an initial study, and then we did a second study at the request of the Division of Traffic. And these studies verified that the traffic generated by this development needed a southbound left-hand turn lane to make sure that it didn't have a negative effect on the existing conditions. We have traffic engineers that do nothing but study these items. To refer to a study from 1998 as the most recent study is inaccurate. The county engineer pointed out several other studies the county had done when he addressed this topic at the Far East Area Commission. What our traffic engineer does, he gets all of those studies together and reviews them and then makes recommendations in our traffic study, which were shared, reviewed, and then supplemented at a later date. The fact of the matter is, it doesn't do any good to spend millions of dollars changing the zoning code to make sure it's not racially discriminatory and not realize that you need to change people's attitudes. We are arguing about 2 units per the acre. The plan calls for 10. We're asking for 11.75. Those 2 additional units will go to affordable housing, workforce housing for people who don't have an opportunity to get that type of housing now. There's a void in that, particularly on the Far East side, and this would greatly mitigate it and would be a step in the right direction. So I understand they've done their homework and they're doing the best they can, but the reality of this situation is even the areas that they're talking about that are 2 units to the acre or 4.6 units to the acre, The master plans determined with the advice and consent of the area commission. I was at Mount Carmel East when the C2, P2 guidelines were announced and adopted by the area commission. And 6 to 10 units to the acre was the standard here, as well as south of us, Dr. Conroy. So there's only so much that we can do. The city is empirical when it comes to its traffic. I don't think you have too many cases that the Department of Parks and Recs goes out of their way to acknowledge that we're providing a tree preservation, a 6-acre open space. We redesigned the layout of the buildings. They used to be facing east and west, which exposed the whole building to our neighbors. They now are oriented north and south, so just the end caps are there with a substantial buffer. This place is going to be secure, it's going to be buffered, it's going to have adequate traffic, it's going to have key card access, it's going to have so many bells and whistles that a normal zoning doesn't have, because these people had my feet to the fire for over 3 years. And with all due respect to this commission, this is not a bad zoning. This is not an obnoxious density request. This is, let's look at ARLD. Apartment residential low density is what ARLD is. And that's 17.4 units to the acre, and that's from 1959. In 1959, ARLD, apartment residential low density, was 17.4 units to the acre. And you're taking me to task for 12 units to the acre in 2023. I think it's illogical. Thank you.
Okay, I think we need to step up to the batter's box and call this to a vote. I think we've got a lot of input, a lot of articulate comments. I think we get the picture. So I need.
Chair, I'm gonna need you to make a motion on the accepting the limitation text of the site plan dated January 10th.
January 10th. Okay, let's have a motion to include the January 10th text and drawings.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now I need a motion to vote. Denise?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, please call the roll.
Amanda Golden,
Thank you for calling me first. Kidding. I'm extremely conflicted, I think, and trying to understand how we make a decision given all of the information that has just been presented to us. I know that there will likely be a split vote. To me, I think that the developer has listened to the community and has reduced the units in favor of making it a little bit more palatable. I understand the traffic is a huge issue, but I do not believe that one development can solve all of the issues that already existed before this last piece of the puzzle is coming forward. I think that it's a very tough decision, and I think that if there was less than great materials being presented as, you know, vinyl siding or something that was on the majority of the buildings, and that was what was being seen from the street, I think I would feel a little more inclined to vote no, but I do believe that because the materials are appropriate and they are 2-story buildings, and because of all of the things that you have shared with us, I'm going to vote yes.
Joel Emerson,
We've had this in front of us since 2019. You know, you both come to the table, made concessions. This is in line with the existing residential development of McNaughton Road. It used to be farmland. I understand that. Those are the last open pieces. No one in that 3 to 5 years has made any move to develop it in any other way. The site plan that they're presenting now and the building plans have been very responsive to criticism. And the way that I look, and this is meeting the city's needs at the moment. in the near term. The last time around, I just said, the residents of the area don't have a fight with the developer, although that's how these things seem to work out. Your effort should be with the infrastructure of the city and going to them and getting what you want, because a developer of a single piece of property isn't going to be able to do that. And certainly most every piece of property on McNaughton was developed by developers over the years, and they did what they thought the market demanded at the time. And we look back at the short-sightedness of some of it, but at the time it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. So I understand the issues. I don't see that the additional 15% units of this wag the dog. I see that no development wags the dog, but not 15% that's being asked for here. So I'm going to vote yes.
Well, like Amanda said, there's like the split vote. I think, Mr. Shannon, you've done a great job responding to the issue that have been raised for the past few years. The new design from 3 stories to 2 stories, I think is fine. Architecturally, I think your design is in context. But the major issue I have, again, is not necessarily with you, the developer is working with the city. It's the issue of safety on McNaughton Road. It's a 2-lane road, no sidewalks. And then we are dumping almost 300 residents in the same area, high traffic, especially in the peak hours. We already talked about the accidental death that happened to a pedestrian. I think that, again, someone mentioned an issue about comprehensive planning. That I think I have to refer to I think there need to be a comprehensive overview of that road to introduce nice motorable roads with proper sidewalks to encourage pedestrian walking around without fear of traffic accidents. So for that singular reason of safety and security, I think I'm gonna say no.
Like my fellow commissioners, I consider this to be a very close call. Ultimately, I share the concerns about safety. I believe the developer has acted in good faith in alleviating those concerns as best they can, but they do not have the power to address infrastructure concerns that stretch the length of McNaughton Road. For that reason, and in light of the safety concerns, I'm also going to vote no.
So I just want to say that I really appreciate everyone.
Can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I appreciate everyone coming out tonight and voicing their opinion. However, I don't believe that this is the developer's issue. I believe that this goes a little bit deeper than that. There are issues that do need to be addressed. I just don't think the developer is where that lands. So I'm going to vote yes.
Maria Conway.
Yeah, I've been, like my compatriots here, very conflicted on this one. My issue, I agree that looking at that area, it's a mess. That is decades of poor decisions that, as John said at the time, somebody thought was a good idea. But that is not the challenge that I look at, because I do have faith in eventually the road, Morpsey or the city doing what's needed on the road. I struggle with a bit of the transition, which I've mentioned before. I do think that there has been I've gone back and forth on this couple of units there, because I was most comfortable at 10. I struggle with the idea of, I hate that within the boundaries of the city, all we're doing is apartments. That is a challenge as well. I do appreciate the affordability component. I didn't know if you get a tax abatement, if that makes the numbers work better for reduction. But I think it's really a no-win situation. Had my counterparts not voted no, I was gonna make sure that there was a no vote in there. But at this stage, I will concur with and vote yes.
Wow. Thanks a lot.
Okay, when we have a split vote, we fill out an information sheet that goes to city council. My comments are that the city is quite late in addressing the needed roadway improvements, drainage improvements, and sidewalks on McNaughton, and it constitutes an emergency. I believe the applicant has reacted very well to the inputs that your neighborhood group has come up with. We depend on neighborhood groups to help mold better projects than they ever started out. And over the time period 2019 until the present, this project has cleaned up its act. It has addressed a lot of issues, and no one developer, as almost everybody has said, is going to cure all these problems all at once. But I think it's time for the city to come under pressure to take care of such an important artery. I've driven that a lot, and it's a way I've gone from Broad Street all the way to Livingston. And I know the times I go, I choose not to go at rush hour for a reason. I have it in writing that this is an emergency, and it's bigger than one developer, but I'm going to vote yes with that explanation. So it's 4-2 in favor, and it's going to go to city council. So please.
It's 5-2.
Or 5-2. Yeah, I didn't count my own. And I think the entire community for your input, it was articulate and direct. And there's two sides of this, and this is a split hair of a choice. But the developer has responded to your request in a very favorable way.
Thank you for your time and consideration.
The people who actually live there, you know, it's been it. Not.
City council. Talk about the fight city council. Talk about the money. Takes money.
I don't like the service up there, but that ain't never. What? Beer